my brothers and sisters. Two arguments are often used to justify Christmas observance. One, many will reason this way, but even though the exact date of Mashiach's birth is unknown, should we not select some date to celebrate as his birthday? The answer is positively no. Notice the statement quoted from the Catholic Encyclopedia. Sinners alone, not saints, celebrate their birthdays. The celebration of birthdays is not a follower of the way, but a pagan custom observed by sinners. Number two, but many still reason. Even so, even though Christmas was a pagan custom, honoring the false son Elohim, we don't observe it to honor the false Elohim. We observe it to honor Mashiach. But how does Yahuwah answer in his word? Take heed to thyself that thou be not snared by following them, the pagans, in their customs, that thou inquire not after their Elohim, saying, how did these nations serve their Elohim? Even so will I do likewise. Thou shalt not do so unto the master, thy Elohim. For every abomination to the eternal, which he hateth, have they done unto their Elohim. Yahuwah says plainly in his instruction book to us that he will not accept that kind of worship, even though intended in his honor. To him, he says, it is offering what is abominable to him, and therefore it honors not him, but false pagan Elohim. Yahuwah says we must not worship him according to the dictates of our own conscience, a term we often hear. But Yahusha says plainly, Yahuwah is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. And what is truth? Yahuwah's word, the Holy Scriptures, said Yahusha is truth. And the Scripture says Yahuwah will not accept worship when people take a pagan custom or manner of worship and try to honor Mashiach with it. Again, Yahusha said, in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. Christmas observance is a tradition of men, and the commandments of Yahuwah, as quoted, forbid it. Yahusha said, further, full well ye reject the commandment of Yahuwah, that ye may keep your own tradition. That is precisely what the millions are doing today. They ignore the commandment of Yahuwah. He commands regarding taking the customs of the pagans and using them to honor or worship Yahuwah. Thou shalt not do so unto the master, thy Elohim. Still, most people today take that command of Yahuwah lightly, or as having no validity whatsoever, and follow the tradition of men in observing Christmas. Make no mistake, Yahuwah will allow you to defy and disobey him. He will allow you to follow the crowd and the traditions of men. He will allow you to sin. But he also says there is a day of reckoning coming. As you sow, so shall you reap. Yahusha was the living word of Yahuwah in person, and the scriptures is the written word of Yahuwah. And we shall be judged for eternity by these words. They should not be taken lightly or ignored. These are strong warnings. Mankind has an innate desire to worship Yahuwah, but he wants to be free to do it according to the dictates of his own mind. The result is a wide variety of religions. In actuality, mass confusion as to which is the true religion. and a world in which true values are lost in an ocean of conflicting opinions about how to live. This, in turn, has helped persuade many people to reach the conclusion that all Elohim are equally good, or its counterpart, that everybody is worshiping the same Elohim. We all know Yahuwah is not pleased with this situation, but he allows it to continue. However, even while allowing it to continue, he is calling people out of it. He has shown his called out ones that they have been redeemed from the bondage to traditions, described in 1 Peter 1:18 as vain, aimless, or futile, depending on the translation. However, in the vast majority of cases, someone presumptuously taking it upon himself to inaugurate a tradition began practicing them, sincerely thinking he was improving his life. We have all followed these traditions, but the follower of Mashiach is responsible not to allow the world to squeeze him into its mold of conduct, character, and attitude. Proverbs 21:16 describes the way many presumptuous sins begin. A man who wanders from the way of understanding will rest in the congregation of the dead. Like this man, most people do not deliberately set out to depart from Yahuwah. Nevertheless, carelessness invariably enters the picture, and a person drifts from his former sure fix on his goal. Once his focus on the goal is blurred, he is more easily deceived into foolishly assuming certain things. An especially sad part of this is that the result is the same as if he were deliberately presumptuous. The author of Hebrews uses a metaphor in Hebrews 2:1-3, portraying a boat slipping from its moorings and drifting away. A person neglects so great salvation by allowing himself to be caught in the current of the world's attitudes and conduct. Presumption frequently begins with careless drifting, but the drifting quickly advances from neglect to presumption unless one carefully checks whether he actually has Yahuwah's permission to behave as he does. In Proverbs 8, wisdom is personified as a woman crying out to people along the way to Yahuwah's kingdom, to take heed to her instruction. In verse 36, she utters a profound warning. But he who sins against me wrongs his own soul. All those who hate me love death. None of us likes to think of himself as foolishly loving death. However, the scriptures consistently shows that those who do not consciously, purposefully, and carefully direct their lives toward obedience to Yahuwah do indeed love death rather than life. Such a person is in effect presuming that all is well with him in relation to Yahuwah. Yahuwah does not like being taken for granted because it is bad for us. Shalom.